We are live. This is Coach Arnie with a Health, Love, Life, and Adventure show. And don't forget, you can contact me. The best way to contact me is my phone number right there, 602-390-9144. You can also send me an email, or you can check me out on my social media. And you can look me up at Arnie Fonseca Jr. on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. You can also go to Real Coach Arnie on TikTok and Twitter. You can also check me out on Instagram at Pain Free Arnie on Instagram. And but we're going to talk about building that inner circle. I've actually been speaking on it for quite a number of years. But it just pops up every once in a while because we struggle in this area. Most people do, anyways. And so there is some skill to it. I was listening to a lecture one time, and a gentleman wanted people to raise their hand. He said, "How many people here have one person that they have at work that they would consider an ally?" And so it puts their hands up. And then how about two? And hands went up still, but not as many. When he got to three, there were very few hands that went up. And that was an eye-opener. And I had already been speaking about it. I looked at it like and actually when I did, I actually called mine the wedge. But I took a gentleman with me to my event, and he was a former Army Ranger, and he called it the tip of the spear. And I kind of took that after that, because here's what I used to call my wedge, and I based that on the movie 300, which came out many years ago, because it was actually a true story about men that fought in that kind of a strategic shape. And I tell this story because it's historically true that they literally saved the world by what they did that day, or over a number of days. But the way it's described is that when you have yourself, I'm assuming that each one of you that's listening to this would be in your own inner circle, because if you're not in your own inner circle, we have a real problem. So let's say that you are in your inner circle. That means you're in this little spearhead, tip of the spear. You're the tip of the spear. And so if you're doing what you're supposed to do, and you're focused on the prize, the target, the bullseye, whatever that might be for you, your goal, you want to hit the target. And then let's assume that you're either being shot like an arrow or being thrown like a spear towards your goal. Well, what would happen if you're the tip of the spear and you turned? What would happen to that spear? Would it stay going if you were the gyro or whatever is controlling that? It would probably turn with you, right? Makes sense. And that's what the inner circle is all about. Because going back to that wedge thing that I used many years ago from the movie 300, what made it really come to life for me is there was a scene in the movie. For those of you that want to watch it, look for this scene. And if you've seen it, you'll know what I'm talking about. Where a young fella wanted to be as part of the group, part of the team. And the commander said, "Can you lift your shield up?" And he couldn't lift it all the way up. And the commander said, "You can't. You can help, but you can't be part of the team." And he was very dejected, to the point of that he basically became a traitor. But when you studied it and you learn about it, you learn that if each man wasn't holding his shield in the right position, it left a gap. And when you're set in a particular pattern, whatever your life might be, if there's a gap, it lets the enemy have a way in to your team. And once you can pick off one person, it leaves a bigger gap. And so more are exposed. And this is what they tried to prevent by this particular military formation. But the same goes for your life. If you've got yourself at the tip of the spear and you've got people on your team, let's say you're the one person that had one other person. Great, they're in there. Maybe you had two. Great. Maybe you had three. Even better. So they're all in there with you. Okay. And you're focused on whatever it might be. Maybe it's a relationship. Maybe it's a sport. Maybe you're training for a marathon. I don't know. It's your deal. It's your goal. But what if somebody on your team, your inner circle, was not doing what they said they were going to do? Well, chances are you'd do this. You'd turn your head and look for them, which means you might call them on the phone. You might send them an email. You might whatever, and you haven't heard from them. So what are you doing? Well, you're spending time on other stuff. Are you focused on the prize? No. So what's happening to your spearhead? It's wobbling. It's wobbling around, which is what most of us do every day. We wobble around, especially those of us that have put our faith in people. Because people are messy. Have you ever noticed that? People are messy. Even the most loving people on the planet. They could be family members. They could be people you went to school with. They could be people you work with. They could be your husband, your wife, your girlfriend, your boyfriend. It doesn't matter. They're messy. And so when you choose to put them in your inner circle and you're constantly having to check on them, are they going to be there? How many people do you know won't go for a freaking walk because they're waiting for somebody to show up, and they're waiting and waiting and waiting, and finally they show up, and you're like going, well, we were going to go for a 30-minute walk, but I have time for 15. So you just cut your day down, your walk down to 15 minutes because your inner circle person didn't show up. They were late. So your goal, your spearhead is wobbly. So that's why it's so important to find the right people in your inner circle. Because I'm going to go over some things here on ways to build an inner circle and the importance of having certain people in there, because people that have a tight, focused inner circle, they win. They do incredibly big things, because it's awful hard to do something great just by yourself. It's awful hard. Okay. And, just like climbing Mount Everest, it takes a team, even though I know a guy that did it by himself without anybody's support. Okay. He did it. Great. But he's not going to be able to reproduce that and replicate it. And he doesn't get to share that with anybody. Everybody thinks he's great, but he doesn't get to share it with anybody. And I sometimes have to tell myself that too, because I like to go out and do great things too. But it's a lot more fun to do them with other people that can experience it with you. The problem is finding those people. Who do we need to find? What kind of people do they need to be? Maybe you're just hanging around the wrong people. That's hard. It's hard to find new friends. You can't find a new family, but it doesn't mean they have to go in your inner circle. And I'm talking about mom and dad on down the line. Okay? And that's super important. So think about those two themes there, because having those allies, in that inner circle can really be powerful, but it can also be very explosive and destructive in your own life. Because see, if we can find a way to put together 5 people, and I've heard this for years, and some of you may have heard this too, just 5 people in your life. I mean, lifetime. You know, I always get a big kick out of, because, you know, we all went through it. Any of us that went through school and college and when we were young in our 20s, you had all these buddies you're hanging around, playing sports with, hanging out. If you're a drinker, going out, you know, go out drinking and dancing and then maybe couples. And pretty soon you had, you know, quite a group. And then 10 years go by and some of the groups doing other things, moving, doing things, families, this and that. Then 10 years go by and then, you know, pretty soon at the end of the day, especially for men, not very many people hanging around anymore. Women do much better because they're more social creatures. Men do very poorly. And it costs them health-wise. It costs them because they didn't choose well. And so let's go over some things here, because if we can put together 5 people that can teach, encourage, give you feedback, and love you unconditionally, you are on your way to just having an explosive inner circle that you can really grow with and from, because they're invaluable. These folks are invaluable because, see, we're social beings. I already said that. We're social beings. Human beings are social creatures. We need people that isolate. It's a danger in the recovery world, especially for men. Isolation is a red flag. When people begin to isolate, it's a dangerous situation potentially, because we need to be around people. We do. And that's why some people even create chaos in their lives so other people will come to them. They'll attract other people to maybe rescue them or give them attention, even if it's negative attention. You probably know people like that. So, so I want to go over 5 types of people that we should have in our inner circle. That doesn't mean you go running out today and start to question people in your life, but you can start to pay attention to what kind of people they are. And it doesn't mean you go fire all your friends and family either. But I want you to be aware. Are these people adding value to you, or are they dragging you down? And, you know, and look at yourself too. Okay, you know what? You got to start with the person in the mirror. Are you that person? Are you part of someone else's inner circle? Can they trust you? Will you call them back? Are you the person when someone leaves a message, never calls them back, sends a text? I'll get to it later. I mean, chances are you are not going to be in that person's inner circle. Because one of my rules for people that I trust, because trust is huge in my life, is whether or not someone calls me back or not. And it's on me to know how to best communicate with them, whether it's a text message, a phone call, maybe it's Facebook, whatever. Everybody has their own quirky little way of but if I know that, it builds trust. It's like I have a client, he's 85, wonderful guy, and he's really been going through some crazy stuff, which for most people in the last month would have put them, they wouldn't have made it. But this guy made it through some really weird stuff. But you know, one of the things about him, and I know he knows this in his deep down in his soul, when he calls me, I'll pick up. Now, if I can't pick up, he knows as soon as I get a break, I will pick up and call him. He knows that. How important do you think that is to him? You think I'm in his inner circle? Damn right I am. I'm in his inner circle. And there are times when he gets on me and he lets me know what the rules are. Hey, this doesn't go anywhere. Don't worry about me. It's not going anywhere. And even if he thinks I might be sharing some information, he stops. He stops the conversation if there's somebody in the room. And we regroup. And I respect that, because that's what I want from my inner circle as well. I want that trust. I want that shield held high. I want that shield held high so that I can trust what's going to happen in that conversation. Can you guys do that in your life? Can you trust? So one of the first persons we've got to have in our inner circle is what I call a learning enabler. Kind of a weird term, right? And what that means, that's somebody who is wanting to learn and wants to get you involved too. Hey, let's take a class. Hey, let's do this. Hey, let's do that. They want to grow and they want to do it with you. So they're trying to enable you to learn as well. Or maybe they just want to tag along. They're that person that will be there for you when you go to a class or a seminar or whatever. Hey, you're going to go to a weekend seminar. They'll join you. And they're fun to have on your inner circle, because a lot of times people won't do things because they don't have a learning enabler in their inner circle. They don't. They're hard to find. They really are. They're hard to find because so many people have other commitments, family, other things, financial reasons. It might be, it doesn't matter, but they'll join you on stuff. They may even go travel with you to go to a seminar or a whatever it might be. Doesn't matter. Because they want to learn as well, and they want to be with you, and they're on your team. They're in your inner circle. So these learning enablers love to do things together, and they're valuable individuals to have on your team. It just makes the experience better when you have somebody that you can trust, that you know is going to be there. And you can even include them as the person that's going to be there at 3:00 when that's when you're going to go for a walk, or 5. How about I'm going to go for a walk at 5:00 and they're there. They're there at 5 till 5, ready to go. You don't have to worry about them. They're there. They're not going to call you and say, hey, I had to stop and get coffee. Sorry, I'm late. They're going to be there for you because they are an enabler to help you grow. And it's so important to have those individuals there, whether it's going to meet you at the gym. Are you that person? When you say, hey, I'll meet you at the gym right after work, I'll be there at 5:00. Be there at 5:30, 4:30. Are you there? Or did you stop at the store and do some shopping, or do this, make a phone call and blah, blah, blah? Are you the one that's always late? Are you the one that's always taking that phone call when you know you have to be there to help that person to grow and to get better? Like I said, make sure you're the one looking in the mirror first. All right, guys, hold that thought. We've got 4 more inner circle folks to go through, but in the meantime, we're going to take a quick break and be right back with you.
If the world fades to black and white, well, I wouldn't mind. No, I would not cry, 'cause you are the rainbow in my sky. If the seas took us all away, well, I wouldn't dreams. No, I would not pray if you are the ship sailing.
All right, we are back, and we're talking about building and the importance of having an inner circle. We just talked about a learning enabler is a good person to have on your team in your inner circle. And the next person I want to talk about is that cheerleader. Most people understand this one. We all need someone in our life that's going to kind of celebrate what we're doing. And I'm not just talking about wins. That's easy, but someone that's there during the process. Maybe you're losing weight, and and each week they're saying, "Hey, man, hey, Mary, hey, Dan, hey, Arnie, man, I love the way you're showing up. I love the way how hard you're working, and I think you might be losing a little bit of weight." They're just constantly celebrating your progress, the journey. They're on the journey with you. In the old days, they might have been on horseback as you tramped across the country, and every time you made it past a mountain, a range, or whatever it might be, they said, "Whew, we made it. We did it. We're doing it together." They're cheerleading you. They're just wonderful, because they celebrate the little things, and that's so important. They love your effort. But at the same time, it's as important. We need these individuals to be honest. Look, I was talking with somebody earlier, and he was saying on his Instagram, what he was doing was he was talking to people that he's working with and just giving them encouragement for just little things. And some people might have called that false praise. He goes, no, it's not. It's real. Because people need to, and he was so right, people need to be encouraged for the smallest, tiniest little progress. Do you know how important that is to people? Oh my God. It's so important. So many people, especially when they're your friends and family, you might say, "Hey, I just did this." And they go, "Oh, well, how many pounds did you lose? Or how much weight did you lift? Or how many sales did you make the rest of the?" It's like, geez, I just made a phone call. Can you give me a little props for making a phone call? I've been scared to death to pick up the phone. Oh, okay, great. Good job. Hey. And it's not real because they don't get it, which is why they shouldn't be in your inner circle. They're not that person. They're not the cheerleader. They're more focused probably on what they do, because they want you to cheer what they do. Because most people do. Honestly, most people want you to celebrate them. Well, that's fine. Maybe you'll be in their inner circle for that, if that's genuinely who you are. But that's not the person you want in yours. It doesn't mean you can't be their friend. It just means if you're looking for somebody that's going to be on the journey with you to encourage and love you unconditionally, and you're constantly turning around waiting for somebody to cheer you on, get rid of them. It's not going to work. You're going to drive you crazy. Who's I talking to? Just recently, I said, I'm hoping that you're not doing that, expecting that person to respond that way. He goes, "Oh, no. And well, whatever. But that was just my advice, because they were going to be disappointed, because that's not who that person was. But there are people out there, maybe you're one of them, that are the encouragers, they're cheerleaders. They will give you genuine love for your effort. And it's so important. It's so important to have these people on your team. They play a big role. They really do. Because most of us have a love language of words of praise. That's what these people do. They will praise you for your effort. And we need them. We really do. All right. Number 3 is, in many ways, this is what I do. But at the same time, I'm a cheerleader for many. But I also look at myself as a coach, advisor. I like to call it a trusted advisor and a teacher. And since I've been a coach and a teacher, but I know what a trusted advisor is. That's the person you're going to call up on the phone and say, hey, Jim, hey, Arnie, who do you use to mow your lawn? Who do you use to take for your dog to get groomed? Who's your babysitter for your kids? That's a trusted advisor. And, but they're going to challenge you too. These folks are going to challenge you. They're going to ask you questions. You might come to them with what you're doing. They go, hey, so why are you doing that? What's your goal? Where are you going with this? What kind of food you eating on your diet? Why are you eating the pizza? I thought you said you're going to be trying to lose some weight this week. They're going to challenge you. They're going to talk to you. They're going to love you, but they're also a coach. So they want to teach. Teacher, they want to teach, get it? And advisor, they're going to say, well, hey, if you're asking me, my opinion, I wouldn't do that. But that's why you want them in your inner circle, because you can't have if all you heard all day long was rah stuff. You're not going to learn. You're not going to learn because we make mistakes. We make mistakes, and we don't want somebody in there just picking on the mistakes, but we want to learn. We want to grow, and we need someone in there that may help us. Because what if we lack the skills? Maybe this person can encourage us to go to a conference or seminar, and then you can go to your learning enabler and go to a conference with somebody. Get it? So having a teacher, a coach, or an advisor is critical in your inner circle. For a lot of people, it might be a parent, it might be your dad, your mom. Say, hey, Mom, I'm really struggling with this. What do you think? And if they've been that person for your whole life, maybe a good place to go, right? Makes sense, doesn't it? Sure. They're the ones you would go to for advice. Now, down the road, you may find somebody else, but for right now, your parent is the person that's giving you that solid advice. And until it is no longer great advice, you want to have them as an inner circle coach, advisor, or teacher. I always teach parents that if you're still parenting your 30-year-old, you didn't do a very good job. Now, we're not talking about somebody who's disciplining or parenting here. We're talking about an advisor, a teacher. Now, here's another thing too. And I'm not talking about somebody that you pay. Look, people pay me to help them do things. That's different. That's different. It's still coaching, still teaching, and you're still technically paying somebody if you go take a class or a seminar, right? You may pay a lot of money to learn something at that seminar. But I'm talking about a friend. Like for me, I might call it my grandkids or my kids and give them some advice, or a friend and say, hey, this is what I would do, kind of thing. And if they trust me, I have to take that I have to be that person for them and make sure I'm delivering solid information, solid advice. Because if you're not, then there's a good chance then you're not going to be that coach, that advisor that someone brings into their inner circle, right? Does that make sense? If you're not the one that is giving the information, then when you look at that tip of the spear and you put somebody in there, let's say that you are on a great adventure. You're going into the Grand Canyon and you've got this team of people you're going with. You've got somebody who's great at setting everything up. You've got who's planning everything. Someone who took care of all the lodging and all that other stuff. Someone that maybe helped you with your training. Make sure you train right. But then you wanted somebody on there that had experience and knew the trail, knew where to go, knew where the stops and water and all that stuff. And then you got going. Everything was perfect. Showed up, travel, good to go. Get your training. And then the person that was in charge of leading the expedition, the adventure, didn't show up or was not focused. And it didn't go well because you had to kind of figure it out on your own. I mean, you were ready to figure it out on your own, but is that what you wanted to do? Did you want to just figure it out, or did you want to enjoy the beauty, the amazement of a place like the Grand Canyon, because you were with somebody that knew exactly where to go, how to get there, instead of you having to figure it out? Get it? So your trusted advisor didn't show up mentally or maybe even physically. And so that kind of threw that arrowhead off, didn't it? See what I'm talking about? Can you see how this could be pretty traumatic for some people? For some people, it can be, really dramatic and a shock because they put so much faith in somebody being there for them that they didn't even think about it. And it could really throw somebody in a tailspin. That arrow could just go all over the place. Yeah. All right. So let's look at the last two here. Let's look at the last two. How about a spotter? I love this one. A spotter. And think about weights. If anybody have ever gone into the weight room and you're lifting weights and you have somebody that stands behind you, maybe on a bench press or a squat, they're standing behind you as well, or some other exercise, and they kind of spot you. In case the weight falls, they can catch it, or they can help you catch it. Maybe in gymnastics, you've seen on the high bar, they have people stand at the bottom in case you fall. They can help to break your fall or be there in case you did fall and they need to help you. They're spotters. They're going to be there for you. They're not always going to be holding a net like a fireman, like you've seen in the movies where the fireman would hold that almost look like a trampoline, like a net. Now they have a net. So when you jump out of that building, you'll hit the net, and so that's kind of what a spotter is. I also call that person your wingman, especially for a guy. A wingman. A wingman is someone that is looking for your blind spots. They already know you, and they know that you have certain weaknesses. So they're kind of with you to make sure that somebody doesn't take advantage of your weakness. They're watching your blind spots. Maybe you're emotional about something, or maybe you have a tendency to overdrink or drink, period, or do drugs or whatever, or gamble something. So you have a vice. Well, your wingman is there who's been given permission to give you advice. Hey, look, I wouldn't do that. This is not going to go well. I'm going to step in here. Or they're there in case something does go wrong. They can step in there and take care of it for you. Okay, they're a wingman. He or she is watching your blind spots, because it's so important to have somebody in your life that you know is going to be there. Look, let's go back. The enabler is someone that you know is going to show up and go for a walk or go to a conference or go shopping or whatever it might be. But is that enabler going to be there for you if you've got a physical alteration? You know, are they going to, do they got your back? Maybe that, hey, look, I'm all about having a very lean, mean inner circle. So if one person is doing two different jobs, that's great. Maybe they're a spotter and a wingman at the same time as your enabler. I don't know. That's your deal. You can build your inner team, your inner circle any way you want. So having that spotter, wingman type person watching is so important, because most people sadly won't do anything on their own unless they have someone to do it with. And they're not thinking about some of the things that I'm talking about right now. They're just thinking about having a body there, a friend, to make them feel a little less anxious, because at least they know that you're there. And so that's okay. I'm not saying it's not, but at the same time, it'd be a lot easier if you just learn to do it yourself. And then, you know, you can build these people, you know, these spotters or these wingmen can kind of help you out along the way as well. So they're really important to have in your life. Doesn't mean they are your babysitters, because see, if you're using your spotter or your wingman like a babysitter, that's going to get old. That's not going to go well, because at some point they're going to say, yeah, this is not what I want to do. Okay, I'm not your babysitter. I'm your friend. Because see, at the end of the day, these individuals we're talking about are your friends. Could you pay somebody to do this? Absolutely. You can pay somebody to do this. You can pay people to do all these jobs if that's what you need. But don't we also need some authenticity in our life? Some genuine, people that we know are going to be there just because isn't that what it used to be before all this social media stuff? I knew it was with me. I could call certain people and bam, they're going to be there, and they could do the same to me. But it seems like with social media now, it's a lot harder, right? Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I guess someone can prove me wrong. So let's look at one more here. Let's look at the confidant. Might be the most important, right? Most important, because this person is going to give you deep support. I mean, this is not an enabler that's just going to go to a conference with you or go for a hike with you. This is not this is not the person that wants to just rah you all the time. This is not the person that's going to just give you advice and all that stuff. This is not that person that's just going to be there for you and they're going to watch out for you. They're going to spot you. This person knows more. They know more. They know you sometimes as good as you know. They know you deep in your soul. They can see beyond. They can see beyond what you do. Let's say you're a doctor, a lawyer, or a hairdresser, or whatever you might be, a realtor. They see beyond. They see the person beyond that. Many times I like to say they can see into your soul. They can see deep. And they can many times see who you are going to become or be before you do. They can say, hey, you know what, Jim, man, I could see you someday owning your own business. You're going to be amazing. You're going to be the best doctor ever. You're going to be the best this. You're going to do this. They see that, and they really do see it. And they share it with you, which creates encouragement, doesn't it? It creates encouragement. You also know, look, this is important. Like the enabler, you know that these individuals, they allow you to take risk. They allow you to be you. How important is that? How important is to have somebody in your inner circle that allows you to be you? Now, granted, if you're being a jerk, they may not take it to be their place, but maybe it's your coach or advisor might do it, or maybe they may suggest, hey, why don't you take that up with Bill? Bill might be your advisor, your coach, and you're like going, I don't know, but because they're going to let you do it, because they make you feel comfortable. Have you ever been with somebody that just makes you feel comfortable? Like you're like old friend. Every time you see them, it's like old friend. You just light up. It's like there's two kinds of people. The person that goes into a meeting, and the first thing everybody says is, hey, it's Arnie, or it's Jim, it's Mary. They're here. I'm so glad they're here. Woohoo! Versus the other person walks in and says, hey, it's me. It's Jim, it's Arnie. I'm here. Can you see the difference? Because see, usually when one person walks in, they're the one encouraging and loving and listening to all those other folks. They're feeding them. And the other person is, look at me. I want all the attention. And a lot of times they get it. But you want someone in your life that's just going to make you feel real, genuine. Let you be yourself. Doesn't mean you're not going to make mistakes, because you will. You'll make mistakes. But there's other people, if you've done your job right, in your inner circle that'll help. So so those are your 5 potential inner circle friends. And if you can do that over your lifetime, I didn't say do it by next week. I said in your lifetime. Can you see the difference it'll make? If you have those kind of people in your life, it'll make such a difference. It really will. But you gotta work for it. You gotta mean it. And you'd be surprised if you have those kind of people in your life, what it'll do for you. It really will make a difference. All right, guys, this is Coach Arnie. We've been talking about the importance of having that inner circle. Now, again, don't try to do this all in one day. Just look for people in your life. And you know what? Here's one of the things I like to start with. Look who you have now in your inner circle. Are those the people you want? Are you turning your head, or are you focused on the prize? If you're not focused on the prize, you may have the wrong inner circle. And are you the right person to be in someone else's inner circle? All right, guys, I love you. This is Coach Arnie, and I will talk to you next time on the Health, Love, Life, and Adventure Show.